Hello, everybody, and welcome to Edusations. I have Adam from the great state of Ohio here today. Adam, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the viewers?
Hi there, I'm Adam Yankay. I teach at Western Reserve Academy in Hudson, Ohio. It's a boarding school, 9 through 12, plus PGs. In roughly my 19th or 20th year of teaching. You'd think I'd know that, but it's 19 or 20 years getting ready to get started. And I'm excited to be here. I'm really excited about everything that Phil's doing with the Wall Ed Chat and the Edusations and his podcasts. And I'm really honored to be here and talking with him.
Yeah, I'm really glad to have you here. I've really enjoyed connecting with us. We started with that small little connection of you knowing some professors from Messiah, which was cool. I need to ask, though, if you are from Ohio, does this make you an Ohio State fan?
Well, I am actually not from Ohio. I am merely in Ohio.
Okay.
Born in Pennsylvania, lived 25 years in Texas, moved to Vermont, then Wisconsin, and now I'm 5 years finished in Ohio.
So you've been everywhere around these great states. That's cool.
Yeah. Haven't gotten farther out west, not yet, but maybe that's in the plans down the road.
It's a great moving growth mindset you have there. The power of yet. So, hey, you said that you teach this academy. That academy is a boarding school, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like that's an area of education that oftentimes doesn't get much light shed on it. So maybe you can tell the viewers, what's it like teaching in a boarding school compared to what teachers might experience in their typical classrooms?
Well, I'm going to be very practical about it to start off with. When I started teaching, first 7 years, I was at a private day school in Dallas, Texas. I had a nice house, I had a lawn to mow, and I had, very young children. But I found that I was spending so much of my time during the school year at the school, coaching football, coaching theater, that I'd come home and now my weekends are taking care of the house. Well, when you're at a boarding school as a professional, all that's taken care of. I get to focus on the kids, and then I come home and I focus on my family. And if the sink's busted, I put in a maintenance call. The sink gets taken care of. We have an excellent facilities and maintenance staff that just they handle everything. I don't have to worry about mowing the lawn, fixing the roof, nothing. So as a professional that dedicates everything to my job and then coming home to my family, this is one less thing to worry about. In the classroom, it's a mix. There's boarding students and there's day students. We have a lot of students that are from the area, but we've got students from around the world. We have students from Korea, from Japan, students from Russia, from Africa, from different European countries, from South America. So instantly, you've got a global perspective, and you need to be paying attention to the news. What's going on in the home countries of these students that might be affecting them in the classroom, or what can they share with us about? Well, this is what we're told. This is our perception about China, for instance. Chinese students, what do you have to say that gives us a different view that maybe doesn't come through our media? So that's something that's really unique in the classroom of boarding schools, is that international flavor. Students from very different backgrounds, not just culturally, but academically. They didn't all come from the same middle school. So I don't know what their math background is. I can't target this. I just know that they're in this class, and it's my job to get them to this point. I got to figure out where they're starting, and don't take anything for granted. But I got to get them to here. So let's start individualizing. Where is everybody, and what's the path forward?
Yeah. So if you have people coming from all these different countries, which sounds awesome, it also sounds like it's a lot of things to kind of balance out and figure out, like, how do we make sure that I know where they're at in different areas?
Yeah.
What are your early assessment strategies, or what are your ways to figure out where are these particular students whenever it comes to math?
Well, very early on, I start with some very easy, accessible things. And I'm focusing right now on my freshman course, which is an algebra, geometry, probabilities hybrid. I do some very easy, accessible things, usually focusing on statistics. Not a lot of kids have seen statistics. So I'm working with very basic graphs, but I'm also asking them, what are your emotional associations with mathematics? We take that information, we discuss it, but we also turn it into a bar graph. Now on the homework that night, there's bar graphs. There's information that I ask them to make into a bar graph. But there's also a lot of sort of algebra tracers that I'm looking for. I want to see, do they know how to graph a line? Do they know how to solve for x? What if the variable's in the denominator? How are they with word problems? Exponent rules. So in very early on, even though I haven't taught it, I'm assuming they've had some exposure to it before, and
Right.
it's integrated in the homework. And I'm going to say, okay, where are the strong spots? Where are the weak spots? Who's got questions the next day and over what? And so that's sort of how I take a big scatter shooting approach and say, okay, what did we hit? What did we miss? And then figure out who needs what from there.
Do you find that there's any issues with like language barriers whenever they come to your school too, since they are coming from all these different places?
Every now and then there's a little bit of a struggle. You're not sure if a student is understanding, but we do a very good job of screening the kids to make sure that they are prepared to be in our classrooms.
Gotcha.
So there is sometimes a wide range, but everybody's ready for the classroom. What really shows up actually is a lot of our foreign students have excellent writing, excellent punctuation and grammar. They've been very well schooled. They might not know the right word, and so they're searching for it.
Right.
But the structure of their writing, I've been very impressed with. And so that's actually one less obstacle, to worry about. It's more just the specific vocabulary.
Even the students that are struggling in different areas with math, one of the benefits that they have is that math is a language in and of itself. Like I remember whenever I was in high school, we had a foreign exchange student. His name was Dennis, and he was from Germany. Obviously, whenever he was in like English classes and things like that, and he was sitting next to me, I'd have to guide him through some of the vocabulary. But whenever it came to math, he and I were pretty on par with each other because he knew the numbers, he knew the functions, and he knew how to do it all in that way. I think that's a cool thing about math.
Yeah, we had a German girl who came for the second half of the year this past year. And my students wanted to do video lessons, as a project, some instructional videos for next year's students. This was their idea. Well, the student who was really the most proficient was this girl from Germany. So, she was really helpful in demonstrating to us what a good finished product could look like, and was ready to help anybody who wanted to get involved, or that wanted her involvement.
So what else do they have to do for this project? I'm really interested in this.
Yeah, they were asking at the end of the year, because we were done with the content. We were just in review and spiral and sort of patch things up for the last couple of weeks. And so they said, well, can we do videos? And I said, sure. I tell you what, pick a topic that you think next year students might struggle with that you are now very proficient at. Make an instructional video that I could link on our haiku page. For next year, so the students can access it. If they're absent for a day, they can click on your video and they can feel caught up. They can do the homework, or at least get started. Think about what would go into that. And I didn't give the kids a lot of structure because I didn't want to limit their imagination, and I didn't want to tell them what I thought was important. And sort of let's see where they go with it. Now, that said, not every kid's video is going to be linked for next year. Right. There were some shortcomings. There was some learning curves, but it was a good experience for them. And I made this their entry ticket into the final exam. So you just had to have your video shown. If you want feedback, finish it early, and then we'll give you feedback and you can polish it up.
Awesome.
No deadlines except for it needs to have been seen by the rest of the class before we show up to our final.
So about how big is this library that you have working for you then?
Well, it's not too big. This was a couple of small classes. So right now, I think I have maybe 10 to 12 videos.
That's still great.
But it's nice. 10 to 12 videos available. I think I only ended up linking maybe 3 or 4 that I thought, okay, this is sufficient and necessary. All the information you have to be prepared for this topic. So good to go. It was better than anything else that was on YouTube, or as good. So let's see our students and their shining faces. And so next year's students, I can say, hey, do you know Maria? Okay, she's got a video. Check it out.
I really like this. That's really cool. It's almost like it's almost like a flipped learning sort of idea, but it's more of like an enrichment opportunity added onto it as well. Or if for the students that are struggling, it's great remediation as well. I think that's great for math, because usually, and you can probably speak to this, and I know I can speak to it. Whenever we were in school, if you didn't get math during that day, usually it was like, well, tough. Here are like 20 problems in the textbook to help you understand it a little better.
Yeah. No, I don't. Just on a lot. I can talk about that on a lot of levels. One, I never give 20 questions on the same topic, because my thought is, if you can do 7 or 8, then you could do 20. If you can't do 7 or 8, you can't do 20. So why would I ever ask more than 7 or 8, especially for the first day?
Right.
So my homework assignments for the students, there's 7 or 8 over what we did that day. There's also then 3 or 4 for what we did the day before, then a couple from the day before that, and 1 from the day before that, and then the rest of it is just scattered throughout the year stuff. And the idea is that you practice the 7 you did today, but also in class, we went over yesterday's homework. So if you had any struggles on those problems, well, here's 3 or 4 more from yesterday's homework. So you can practice, okay, I got some maintenance, now let's see if this works. Okay, got it. And then what did we do 3 days ago? Oh yeah, that, okay, yeah, I've mastered that, I'm ready for an assessment. So they're practicing what they learned today, they're cleaning up whatever mistakes they made from the day before, and they're putting the finishing touches on whatever I'm going to assess next. So I usually don't offer any kind of formal assessment until it's been 4 days since you had the first opportunity to learn it.
That's great to build those blocks. I think a lot of what you've described so far is really helping students see math in a different light than maybe students of like the 1950s saw math, or the 1960s and so on. And you've written about this in your new blog, and you've talked about this idea, and you're beginning to introduce this idea of math cognition.
Right.
What is that for the viewers?
Right. Math cognition was kind of my contribution, or my form of having the students reflect on their learning, reflect on their growth, and really connect with the entire person in the classroom. When they show up, my department chair, Hardy Geisky, he's got this great phrase that he said, that we are more than just the givers and takers of tests. And, the kids come in there, we all know they bring their history, their emotional baggage. Well, I really wanted to focus that on math. So day one, I mentioned the bar charts. I'm asking them, what is their what is their emotional associations with mathematics? And you get the wide range. You get, I'm scared, I'm nervous, or I'm confident. And even within one student, you get a wide range of what are all their emotional experiences. It's also an opportunity for them to learn what's an emotion. I suck is not an emotion.
Fair enough.
But it is a nice conversation starter, but it's not an emotion. So I'm looking to see, kind of what feeling. So even that kid that says I suck, okay, so they're bringing a very negative, can't do attitude. Well, let's see why. When have you been successful? When have you felt unsuccessful? And I start that off. I asked them to put it on a Google Doc that I've shared with each individual student. Sort of, what is your emotional association? When have you been good and felt successful at math, and when have you really struggled, and when do you not feel successful? And they're telling me right there the strategies that are going to work for them. Do they like to work with other people? Do they need to come for extra help? And so as the year begins, I can sort of lay out a plan for them, like, oh, hey, here's another student who has the same struggle, but they like working with other people, so maybe the two of you can work together, and then come see me if there's a problem. Okay. You really need to feel like nobody's going to make fun of you if you're asking a question. Well, that's going to be for everybody, but I'm going to be really attuned to when this student speaks, how are we answering that as a class? Are we answering it with kindness, with generosity? Are we dismissing their question? But they're going to see that I've asked the question, and then I really pay attention to those dynamics within the class. It's the first opportunity that they get to see that I'm going to respond to them, that this is a safe place for them. I'm not just running the Yankay math program out of the book, that I'm taking specific attention to what you told me, and it's important. It's important. I'm going to respond to it and make sure that this classroom is set up for you to be successful. So that's how I want to start it off, and that's what the math of cognition does. Now, as the year goes on, I engage in these sort of one-on-one conversations. We all might come back to a single prompt. Maybe 2 months in, we're asking, okay, this was your plan for success. How are you doing on it? Is it working? Are there obstacles to your plan that you didn't anticipate? But of course, all of those answers are going to be specific to the student. And so I'm helping them navigate whatever their individual issues might be. It might be that, boy, I'm sitting with this student and I really have a tough time working with that student. Okay, well, let's see how we can resolve that, either by moving or helping you two connect better. Or, my cell phone is on, it really gets in my way when I'm trying to do my homework. Okay, let's talk about how we work with a cell phone, because you can't just ban them. The kid's going to take them to their dorm room. Exactly. So how do we work with that? But that's what mathocognition is. I mean, the tool is just a Google Doc, But this is the name that I attach to it, so that the kids we can refer to it by name without saying, hey, remember that Google Doc where we're having a conversation. The mathocognition. By the end of the marking term, I'm asking the kids to evaluate themselves. One of the unique things about our school is that we have a grading narrative. So instead of A, B, C, D, E, we have 1 through 7. 7 is the highest grade. There's a 6.5 and then a 6. Okay. But we also have, along with that, a narrative rubric that describes the qualities of thought, of work, of participation. What is it that a student will show that's evidence of a 7 or evidence of a 5? So I asked the students to look at that rubric and give supporting evidence about where they think they should be scored on this narrative, and then, more importantly, why not the grade above that? Okay. So by doing that, they're giving themselves hopefully honest feedback, or I can help them be more honest if that's necessary. But they're also, at that point, taking ownership of their plan for improvement. They're recognizing, why not the next grade? Oh, okay. So how can we address that? What is it that you need to do to get there, and how can I help?
That's brilliant.
So, yeah, and so I'm not the one having to be the cold the cold water splashed on them, the
right.
ice. They're looking at it and making an evaluation. Now I might need to throw one ice cube at them if they've over evaluated themselves, but given everything that's led up to that, they're very open for an honest dialogue. They know that I care about them, and they know that I'm not going to move them down the rung just to be mean. We're going to really look at it and see, okay, what is your evidence for a 5.5? Well, here's what I'm seeing that makes me think more of a 5. What do you think about that? Am I missing something? Tell me. And it's a good conversation. And usually the comments that go along with the grades, I can refer right to what the kid wrote.
Right. I think one of the really cool things about this too is that you've built these relationships with the students for them to be able to do this, but you've also backed it up with high quality work and a lot of different teaching strategies and a lot of different approaches to help these students out along the way as well. Good teaching plus relationships are two very good ways to help build in an education environment. You need both of them,
right?
I would say.
Right.
And I think that's something that you wrote about in a blog post recently as well. And I want to make sure I'm getting that right. Yeah?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, absolutely. You got to have the relationships, but you also have to have the content knowledge.
Right.
And you also have to have the ability to encode it. If you don't know how to train another person's brain to perform, well, then that might be an area for professional development for you. But yeah, that's kind of my my three legs of the stool for great teaching is the relationships are important, but they're not everything. You have to have content knowledge, and you have to have the ability to help students encode it. And that's whether you're teaching math, spelling, or coaching football out on the field. These three things are all part of great teaching and great coaching.
Yeah, and you're not even arguing along the way that like every teacher should be a sage on stage. You're just being honest and saying, if you're teaching math, you should probably know a little bit about math, or actually you should know a lot about math because you're going to be teaching it to them. So I think that was great. I loved your blog post. I thought it spelled that out very nicely. So math has really shifted, and education has shifted a lot recently. Based on your perception and based on the really cool stuff that you're doing in your classroom, what are some things that you think the education world and the education community can go to? Like, what are our next steps in the Yankay opinion?
Right. Well, my views on that are really coming from what I've read and what I see. I am not any great prognosticator of what the future job market's going to look like or anything. But what I will say is I agree with the assessments that statistics and probability are huge. The computer programs that are doing modeling can, from what I understand, they can model situations better with probability and statistics than they can with calculus. They can actually do it faster with probability. So having students who know programming and who understand probability and can model a situation with probability, those are the ones who are going to be building the computers and the AI of the next generation. And again, that's not necessarily my opinion. That's what I've read and come to understand and agree with. So I think as early as you can get kids practicing probability and statistics and analyzing data, making conjectures, even if they're not mathematically founded at an elementary age, they're at least looking at a picture and saying, okay, does that make mathematical sense? What is that picture telling me about the mathematics? I think that's very important. I don't think it should be separated into a different course. Thinking about math, thinking about numbers, there's the abstraction of math, which is a healthy thing to do, but there's also, okay, well, if we see these numbers in real life, what does it mean?
Right.
And I think finding that balance, it's everything doesn't have to be practical. You can have the abstractions, but it is nice when students can link those abstractions to something that they might encounter in the real world.
Definitely. Yeah, and that's great. Those are good strategies and good thoughts to get students ready for their futures over, what we did in our past. Okay, we have talked a lot about boarding school. We've talked about math cognition, and now where you think it should go next. We're getting to the point where we're at the end of the show, so we're going to do our high fives here. Just five questions, totally unrelated to education, so they get to know you a little better. You ready?
Got it. Yep, okay. Fire away.
First one, fall or spring?
Spring.
Spring, okay. I'm more of a fall guy, the pumpkin spice. It just wakes me up in the morning. Next one, cooked or raw vegetables?
Cooked. With the caveat that roasted is better. Roasted or steamed, not boiled. No.
Yeah. Least favorite color?
Ooh. Boy, maybe gray.
Gray, okay.
Yeah.
I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I'm still not a huge fan of yellow. So, I'm like, it's gold. So it's a little different.
Understood. It's a vibrant color. So I'll keep yellow. Gray, living in Wisconsin, and Ohio, we get a lot of gray months. So.
Favorite vacation destination?
Appalachian Trail.
Cool. Are you a big hiker then, or?
Well, to say I'm a big hiker is to diminish the people who really hike a lot. I like to go to the Appalachian Trail and hike for a few days on end.
Okay.
But once I get home, I don't feel the need to go out to the Cuyahoga Valley and just hike for a day. I really like the Appalachian Trail, mostly because of the people. Okay. The people that you meet on the trail and on the side of the trail, just very friendly and usually all there for similar purposes and have a very positive outlook. So I like being around them on the trail.
Yeah. And last question, how do you eat an Oreo?
I just put the whole thing in my mouth.
I like it.
Yep. Nice and simple. Put it in, chomp, and enjoy.
Excellent. Okay. So, Adam, before we go, anything else you want to say?
No, I think that's it. Phil, thank you for having me, and I hope this has sparked some imagination and some conversation somewhere.
Yeah. Hey, so thanks so much for being on the show, Adam. If you are somebody watching the show and you want to connect with Adam, you can find his Twitter handle below in the description of the video, in addition to the link to his blog. If you like what you see on Edusations, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested in being on the show or know somebody that wants to be on the show, they can go to philstrunk.com/contact. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.